Well, just a few short days ago, you would have seen this headline come across your screen and you would have been like, okay, there's a lot going on here, but we're going to keep talking about carbon taxes. Okay, fair enough. And you kind of just nodded along and moved along. Wasn't all that consequential, for being honest, in terms of the grand scheme. Right now, to the conservative strategy, they're still really going to hammer down and making sure they completely repeal and eliminate any carbon pricing in the country, which is an important issue. We just don't know if it's the most important issue to Canadians at the moment. That's left to be seen. But a lot of people are just kind of like, okay, they moved along and kind of ignored this headline. But there's one entity specifically who deemed that it was important enough to cover substantially, and cover it so substantially that they completely kiboshed the idea and actually may have turned people's eyes back to it and realizing, oh, they're coming at Poilievre kind of hard on this. Wait a second. I know the consumer carbon tax is going, but we're still going to be getting carbon taxes altogether? What? And oh, baby, the CBC ran a clip of how this is an issue and how actually Poilievre removing carbon pricing altogether is actually going to make us weaker as a country, they say. Is actually going to make us more susceptible. And they're buying Carney's statements about what the EU is going to be doing with tariffing countries who don't have carbon pricing. So here's a CBC clip, and let me know what you think.
He said that repealing the industrial carbon pricing system in Canada would be something that would benefit workers, benefit this, as Canada's kind of future, again, sort of lower a tax burden. But it's not clear whether this wouldn't, in fact, invite a tariff burden on any future mining products coming out of Northern Ontario. Because, for example, if they were destined for manufacturing in Europe, Europe has been clear that it wants a carbon pricing system from the jurisdiction from which sort of the imports come. If there isn't a carbon pricing system for the development of critical minerals in Canada, those critical minerals could face a tariff when they are imported into the European Union. That then sets up a trade barrier that way. So whether it's a tax or a carbon emissions sort of credit system at home or a tariff abroad, the climate impact is going to be priced one way or another, and it is the choice of governments sort of how to proceed and what they believe is the best outcome.
So there it is. The fear-mongering starts and will continue. He wants to completely remove carbon pricing out of Canada, and honestly, no one really seemed to fully care about it. It just didn't seem to be in the forefront of issues that people are currently facing. People saw the excess tax. There were conservatives who were saying, it just kind of seems like an out-of-touch messaging from Poilievre. Then CBC throws this in there. It's like, wait a second. This could make it more of an issue than it is. CBC is probably making more of an issue of this than needs to be. And they're talking about, we could be tariffed. And they use the word tariff. Oh, we're going to face tariffs by the EU. We know that you're terrified, Canada. We know you're a little gun shy with tariffs. We know that Donald Trump is making you scared about tariffs. Oh, no. They made sure to use that terminology. And honestly, CBC keeps pushing this messaging. It might actually bring the axe to tax mentality back to the forefront if they keep this up. This is just a start. But they keep talking about this. They hit another segment later on, another CBC show, talking about the very same issue. Here it is again.
Carney said he'd scrap the consumer carbon price. Poilievre is going further, promising to axe the industrial levy too.
There will be no taxes on consumers, no taxes on Canadian industries.
Most provinces have their own systems. Poilievre says they can keep them if they want. He would also expand tax credits for clean tech.
While the Liberals tax businesses who use energy, Conservatives will cut taxes and boost incentives for those who bring down emissions. Carrot, not stick.
The more predictability we have and the more incentives we have is a good thing. But of course, it's all about the details.
Poilievre's plan found support in Alberta.
The carbon pricing put in place by the federal Liberal government has made our industry less competitive, which is, I think, bad for not only industry, but Albertans and Canadians.
But the Canadian Climate Institute says industrial carbon pricing is the biggest driver for reducing emissions.
If we got rid of the industrial carbon price today, our emissions would rise the equivalent of about 15 million cars.
I would say it's bad economic policy for Canada. It's terrible environmental policy.
Poilievre says his plan would make business more competitive amid Donald Trump's economic threats. But other trading partners are planning tariffs for countries without carbon pricing.
We are able to think one step ahead. We're able to go out and see the world. We're able to help Canadian companies prepare.
So if the industrial carbon price is scrapped, Canadian companies could simply be trading it for another kind of cost. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
There it is. That's how they end it. Companies will be trading the tax for another cost if they get scrapped. So think about it. Think about those tariffs. Think about those costs that could come. Again, using the term tariffs to instill fear inside the Canadian population about Poilievre's idea. This is the issue. Most people are kind of happy to pay lower taxes. And this is a way for CBC to make it sound like it's a bad idea. Poilievre says, I'm going to scrap all the carbon pricing. All the carbon tax on the manufacturers and the industry, it's all going. It's all gone. And CBC says, could be a bad idea. Think about the tariffs from the EU. Yeah, but let's talk about the tariffs from the EU, shall we? Shall we pull up this again? Our total trade dollars of the United States, hitting almost $1 trillion back in 2023. And that's the most recent data that we have. We go down to the EU. Look at us. Look at the trade we have the EU, full-blown $121 billion, a tenth of what we do the United States. So quite frankly, I don't give a crap what the EU is going to tax us with. Let them. They need our stuff. And so they're either going to play ball or they're not. What are they going to do? Go to Russia? Have fun? And go talk to Putin. Since you love him so much, Putin lover, we know we can play those games, can't we? Turn the tables, shall we? Yeah, go talk to Russia about your energy. You're either going to take our stuff or not. You're going to tariff it? Well, guess what? We're not giving it to you. It just needs a strong hand to be able to deal with this stuff. We know you need our stuff. Yeah, go find someone else. Have fun. Because right now, the leader in the world right now is at our border in the United States. They don't have carbon pricing. And even the fear-mongering in these CBC pieces saying, emissions are going to go way up. Guess what? The PBO says, not really. It's barely had an impact on our emissions, and it's also made people more poor. So, and that, my friends, is a record of 8 years with this pricing and this tax. It's done very well. The ridiculous fear-mongering from the left is, quite frankly, disgusting. I'm not really having any of it. And neither should you. Do not believe this stuff. Look at the stats. Look at the reality. Tariffs from the EU. That's spooky. Yeah, could it have impact on some industries in our country? Yeah. But all it takes is a strong leader to say, yeah, well, screw you. Either you're going to play ball or you're not, and you can strong arm them and to make sure you drop that freaking carbon pricing because it's useless. All it does is make people more poor and doesn't do anything for emissions if you want to have that argument. If we want to live in your world, emissions barely get touched with this stupid carbon pricing. As much as you want to claim it does nothing. All it does is make people more poor. Do you know why I think this is really important? Do you know why I don't really feel like this whole EU tariff fear-mongering is really mattering? I'd actually care about removing this carbon pricing altogether to start opening up our economy. It's because Mr. Doug Ford, you remember him, right? Had a whole, pound your chest moment, then all of a sudden went, yes, we will be going to talk with Howard Lutnick and DC staff to talk about these issues with tariffs between Ontario and the United States. Well, he just came back from that trip. And this is what he had to say about his meeting there. And he dropped some news that should really get your eyes widened of what is coming down the pipe.
What the U.S. wants. And if I didn't do what I did, that meeting would have never happened. We'd be going back and forth tit for tat. But there's a big difference when you're looking at someone, their whole trade team across the table, looking at them in the eyes. You have a much better conversation than over the phone that we've had a few times so far. And I can tell you what they want. They're going to put a global tariff on the whole world on August the 2nd. What we're working at is making sure that we're first in line for exemptions. And we told the administration very clearly how we feel these tariffs are going to hurt the American people. Yes, it's going to hurt Canada, but it's going to hurt the American people. Mark my words, on April the 2nd, markets will continue to tumble. They were down over $4 trillion. Consumer confidence is down right now. Investments are down. Inflation is happening. And plants, if they continue, assembly plants in the U.S. will close down. People will be out of work. And I can tell you, our closest allies right now are the American people.
So the line out of that is the more so the eye-popping point is that global tariffs are coming in, and we're just kind of getting the first treatment of that. That's what's happening. Those are the tariffs I care about. The tariffs that are coming from the country that would do $1 trillion in trading with. Yeah, that's the one I actually care about. The 120 billion from EU. I could live without it. Whatever. So be it. 121 billion. Okay, well, that will go down to like what 90 billion. Oh, really? It's a really, that really hits the pocketbook. 30 billion in the grand scheme of things. I can live without it, especially the EU, who loves to work in bad faith anyways, and they gave us the likes of Mark Carney in the first place. I can live without him. Move on. But global tariffs coming in. And Ford makes a good point here, saying, I'd rather us be the first in line to get exemptions when those global tariffs hit. And that's the tariffs I actually care about. And that's the relationship I care about, the one where we do $1 trillion in trading with. So quite frankly, as much as I can think that Poilievre's axe attacks might be outdated, CBC attacking him, wanting to eliminate all carbon pricing, could bring that argument back to the forefront. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Have yourselves a good one. I'm out.